Hi friends, this is Krish, the Urban Naxal. Friends, I'm going to talk about relationships and the things that they don't explain in school, in college, in families, anywhere. I'm going to talk about things that are going to get a lot of people angry with me, feminists especially. I'm going to say things which may not necessarily sound very proper and may sound cold, may sound hard and harsh. But these things need to be said because they need to be understood. The reference points of a relationship called marriage need to be clearly understood. And because they are not understood, there is so much confusion, there is so much stress, there is so much miscommunication, there is so much bad blood. There is so much inaction happening all around. There is so much frustration building up within the system. And I'm not just talking about I'm not talking about myself here. Let me be very plain. Let me be very clear. This is not about me. This is not about how I am feeling. But yes, this is also about how I used to feel a lot of the times. And so it is also about me. But it is not about my marriage specifically. It is not about my marriage, my family, my PUs. This is not a rant coming from inside. This is coming from my conversations from a lot of people. And my awareness of a very general kind of problem which is all around us. You look around on the internet, it's there in YouTube. It manifests in various ways. There's this frustration around marriage. And I'm going to, of course, go at this problem from my point of view. It is my perspective. And someone else may say there is another perspective. And I'll welcome them to put their perspective across. There are and there can be and there should be many perspectives. There are many points of view. I'll put one point of view, my point of view, across. So guys, marriage. A man and a woman. Let's not talk about gay marriages here for the time being. Let's talk about the typical thing. A man and a woman decide to settle down together. They are bound by some traditional marriage oaths which are taken but never clearly understood. The traditional marriage oath, it's a Christian oath that I'm going to rely on, but something in the Hindu oath says something very similar. It is an oath of being together till death does us part, till death parts us. It is an oath that we will be together, we will cherish each other in sickness and in health, in richness and in poverty. Through all the ups and downs of life, we will honor each other, we will cherish each other, we will support each other. We will be together. Implicit within this is the fact that they intend to have children and raise a family. Unless they discuss and say we don't want children. But even then, implicit within it is that they will at least constitute a family, a bond. There will be support. There will be honor. There will be understanding, there will be dignity, there will be respect, mutual respect and love and cherishing within the marriage. This is the oath, and the oath in India is often in Sanskrit. You take the Sat Feras, the 7 rounds around the fire, or you may do it 4 rounds around the fire. You exchange garlands, there's a bunch of ceremonies. Some priests may explain the meaning of every step that you take or every round circle around the fire that you take. Some people, some priests may explain it, and some couples may enter into it with full and complete understanding of what they are getting into. A proper, a complete, a clear disclosure of what they are getting into. But most people, I think, are muddled. And even if they are clear in the beginning, conversations that need to happen from time to time, like a refresher course, like a reminder, like a conversation that, boss, you are not holding up your end of the bargain. You are not fulfilling your end of the contract. This needs to happen and it doesn't happen. And when that doesn't happen, frustration, anger, disappointment, bitterness builds up. And because we are human, the oath is broken, divorce happens, or people live unhappily ever after till the end of their days. They live in misery, they live in unhappiness, they live in disharmony. They live for the purposes of society. They may even put up appearances and appear to be smiling at each other or with each other. But in their private life, in their personal life, there may be coldness, indifference, bitterness. You go your own way, I am going mine. That kind of a thing can happen, does happen a lot of the times. And this is the environment. And in this environment, children grow up amidst this bitterness, amidst this coldness, amidst this disappointment. The children hear the words that the parents speak. They hear it when the parents say angry things to each other. They also sense the overall mood of disappointment and indifference and lack of care and lack of love, or active hatred and active bitterness, active rivalry and competition. They see all this, they sense all this. Children are not stupid. Children are very intelligent. They can hear these things, they can see these things, they can see things that are not said. They can see these invisible lines of the relationship, and they pick up. And not only they pick up, they replicate in their own lives, because they say, marriages are like this, they're all fucked up. People are fucked up. We are all fucked up. What's the use? So they learn to live in disappointment. The bar for a marriage is set very low. All of this happens. Now, I want to do a little bit. It's not a cure. I'm sure I am not a one-man cure-all for anything. I am not some kind of a great PhD doctor in marriages and specialist in relationships, any such shit. I'm not any of that. So keep your expectations limited, but hear what I have to say for what it is worth. Marriage is, this part is understood, it's an oath. An oath is a sacrament. What is a sacrament? A sacrament is, it is sacred, it should not be broken, it cannot be broken. It is sacred. It's an oath. It's a vow. You don't take it lightly. You have sworn to live together. So you will not break apart. This is one part of it. There is also a social disgrace if you break apart. There is a social disgrace, the disgrace of failure. The air of failure will hang around you in society if you do break apart. Fairly or unfairly, we will look at that later and in maybe a separate video. Maybe it's fair, maybe it's unfair, maybe society is being fair or unfair. Let's not talk about that for the time being. So for fear of the shame, then there is also this thing of the financial implications. If a couple has to go apart, then a lot of things that were shared and therefore economical will now stop being shared. They will have to live in separate houses. That's costlier. They have to bring up the children separately. That's costlier, more unpredictable. They have to divide the assets, and the law will require the man to pay maintenance to the woman for the most part, or a big divorce settlement. That's costly. And it prevents both the husband and the wife from going forward in their lives with a clean slate. You are never with a clean slate again, for the most part. Usually, you are never with a clean slate. Your slate is dirty. So people are afraid of it, rightly afraid. It is not a good thing to have a dirty slate. It is not a good thing to have a broken relationship. It's not a good thing to have children from a marriage saying my mom and dad are divorced, and it's just not good. It's overall terrible. So it's a disaster. How can people pick themselves up from a disaster if or after the disaster has happened? We will talk about that later. How do you come out when your marriage has died? It is simply dead. There is no marriage. There is no marriage left. There is no relationship left. There is no respect left. There is no love left. There is no substance left in the relationship. Can it happen? Yes, of course it happens. A lot of the time it happens. There is abandonment and desertion and betrayal and emotional unfaithfulness and a whole lot of other things. And all of those things can happen. We'll talk about that. But that's something for another time. Let us talk about the marriages that are there currently. Bitterness has crept in. Conversations have dwindled. They cannot talk to each other. They do not talk to each other. Issues have piled up. There are various issues. There is the issue, typical issues are how his parents, usually it is his parents, have dealt with her. Usually it is that. It could be the other way around, but usually not that way. Usually it is about your parents didn't respect me, didn't give me this thing, you didn't support me, you were not by my side, and so on and so forth. These are some issues. Issues of livelihood and sharing of livelihood. You didn't earn enough. You never earned enough. Could be one issue. You never were the man you claimed to be. You could not keep me in the way that was implied. You did not maintain our family up to the standard that you had promised. I had taken a promise from you, or you had implied at the time of our getting married that this is how we are going to live, and then that is not how we are living. I am ashamed of how we are living. It is not suitable for me. It is not suitable for the children. These can be some issues. Money sharing issues can happen. She spends too much. She expects too much. She doesn't give enough. She doesn't do enough around the house. And yet she expects the sun and moon and stars. There can be those kinds of issues. So there are various sorts of issues. Money can have different meanings for different people. Some people like to spend money, use money. It is something to be used, to be enjoyed. You earn. If you are earning, what is the use if you aren't spending? If you aren't enjoying? If you aren't going out? If you aren't taking vacations? If you aren't buying clothes? If you aren't going to the mall, not buying a car and going out by a car? And going for movies? And if you're not doing all that, what is the use of money? That's one way of looking at it. And it's a legitimate way. Every day is passing by, and if it's happening in a joyless, unhappy way, what is the point? Good point. Exactly. I agree. Then there's the other side of it. Hey, if you're going to just use our money day by day for going here, going there, buying a costly car, buying ornaments, seeing movies, taking vacations, expensive vacations, buying dresses, impulse purchases, buying houses, impulse purchases, and then getting into financial trouble, running up EMIs, running up loans, personal loans, business loans, home loans. If you're going to do all these things, then where is the future? Where is our security? You're threatening our security by overspending, by not being careful. You're threatening the security of the family, of the children. This can be an issue. Another issue is, you're not respectful to my family. Now this can be on both sides. You're not respecting my family. You're not respectful. You're not a respectful man, or you're not a respectful woman. Yes, my father said something. Yes, my mother said something, but you could have been quiet. You could have listened. You could have listened respectfully. You didn't have to retaliate. You didn't have to shout. You didn't have to scream. You didn't have to make a scene. I would have supported you. But you should have been quiet. You should have kept quiet and let me support you. Instead, you started shouting. You behaved inappropriately. So I couldn't support you. So I had to stand on the other side. I had to fight against you. I didn't want to, but I did. Now that's a wall between us. That's an issue. That can be an issue. You're hitting the children. This is not how you're supposed to bring up children. There is a way for bringing up children. You're not doing the right thing. You're not being a father to them. Or you're not being a mother to them. You're not nurturing them. You're not disciplining them. You're not there for them. You're with your friends on phone all the time. You're on WhatsApp all the time. These are some issues. You're negligent. Could be for the father, could be for the mother. You're negligent. You don't give a fuck what happens to the children. You don't care. Could be cleanliness issues. You don't clean up around the house. A lot of issues. You're not neat. You're messy. You don't make it easy. You don't make my life easy. You make my life difficult. I try to keep the house neat and clean, and you come home and mess up everything. You leave your briefcase here, you leave your shoes there, you leave your socks here, you leave your smelly underwears anywhere. The bathroom is dirty. I have to clean up every time you go to the bathroom. These are some of the issues. So there's a world of issues. I mean, I must have brought up 10. There must be 100 or 1,000. There's a world of issues. There's one more issue. Let's talk about that. Mental health. What is a normal human being? He looks normal to the rest of the world. He goes out, he does a job or he does a business. But you think he is mad. You think he's insane. By your standards, he's insane, and maybe he actually is insane in some degree. What he does in his business, you say, but he'll always lose money. Yeah, happens. And that is a kind of insanity in many ways. He always goes and fights. He gets a job and then he'll fight and he'll break the relationships in his office and then he'll come home. Yeah. That can happen with some people, and that's a kind of insanity. Or it's at least a pattern. It's not insanity, but it is a pattern, and maybe an unhealthy pattern of behavior. Could be on her side. Could be on her side also. What is this? You're always quarreling with everybody. You're always picking fights. You're always scolding. You're always nagging. We are just living to you, listen to you nag. Could happen. These things happen. And in one household, there won't be one issue. There'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8 issues. And in all of these, other people also will contribute. Father says something. Children say something. Sister-in-law says something. Provocations. They provoke you. You lose your cool, you lose your temper, you totally blow your stack, you may say things you don't mean to say. You may do things you don't mean to do. Hands may be raised in anger. Violence can happen. Displays of anger can happen. I'll throw your phone out of the window kind of thing can happen. All kind of anger and display of anger. We are normal, you are human. You may say, he shouldn't have done that. Yes, but he did that. Happens. We are normal, we are human, we are all human. Now, the thing to be remembered here, is there a solution? What I would like to say is, it's a sacrament and it's a contract. You got to remember it's a contract. There's a basic thing in the contract. There is something very basic in the contract. Now, let me start with the topmost level. You have a duty to be entertaining when you entertain guests, you may have a very boring guest, but you go out of your way to be nice to them. You go out of your way to smile, even if the other person says something boring or inappropriate even. You try not to take offense. You try to be nice to them. You are entertaining. Are you doing that with your spouse? Or are you just giving up? Like I don't have to do that with you. Maybe you're not. Maybe you're not being entertaining. Or you have a duty to not take offense. Let's look at the other thing. The guest says something, you don't get angry. Your husband says something, you get angry. The neighbor's wife says something, or the neighbor says something, you're not getting angry. You're not acting annoyed. Your wife says the exact same thing and you give her hell. So there is a different personality that you're bringing in the house, and you have a different personality in office. In office, you're a very nice guy, very tolerant guy, very shy guy even, quiet guy. And at home, you're a tyrant. You're rude. You're ruthless. You beat your children, you beat your wife, or you scold your children and scold your wife for things that need not be a matter of scolding. So there's a different personality. So one surface layer, are you entertaining? Are you able to control yourself the way you would control yourself with a guest, the way you would control yourself in your office? There's one very peculiar phenomenon. In the office, a man will, hold himself in and say, yes, boss, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. He will not shout, he will not scream, he will not respond to provocation. Then he comes home and he will explode. He explodes with his wife, he explodes with there, he won't take anything. He doesn't take any shit. I don't take any shit from anybody. Wife. Husband says something, she gives him back answering. She talks back to him. She's rude to him. But her boss, he's a fucking tyrant. He calls at all times of day and maybe late in the evening, and she says, you have to do this presentation and this and that and the other, and she's very polite. She's like, yes sir, yes sir, okay sir, yes sir. Now, the husband says, Salah, if she can be so nice to her boss, he's a prick. She says he's doing this, he's doing that, he's difficult to be with, and she still takes her trouble to be yes sir, no sir to him. His point will be, why are you not being yes sir, no sir with me? Why don't you exercise self-control with me? So, just one solution. Let's learn to be entertaining with each other. Jai Maharashtra. Jai Hind.